Gary Busey's bankruptcy filing contained one line that made lawyers stop reading. His possessions included VHS tapes, tambourines, and tepees rotting in a storage unit. That's all that remained of a career spanning 4 decades. He owed $451,297 to the IRS alone. But the most shocking part wasn't the debt. It was how he accumulated it. Court records showed bills dating back to 1988, the same year something happened that changed his brain forever. What started that night would slowly destroy his fortune, his career, and his life. Gary Buuzy was born on June 29, 1944, in Goose Creek, Texas, a small Gulf Coast town where life moved slow and money was always tight. His father, Delmar, kept construction machines running, and his mother, Sadie, held the home together. Their little house had no extras and no shine, but it was filled with rules, chores, and the kind of toughness that Texas families carried after the war. Gary grew up sharing clothes with his siblings and learning early that nothing came easy. When he was 4, the family moved to Varner, another quiet Texas town lined with fields and train whistles. The sound of the radio filled the house every evening, and that simple world taught Gary how to stand on his own feet long before he ever knew what acting was. He found music before he even understood what music meant. At age 4, he was already tapping rhythms on pots and pans, copying the beats he heard from Hank Williams and Elvis Presley drifting out of the radio. He used spoons, bowls, even the edges of tables, turning the whole house into his drum kit. Sadie noticed how he could hold a rhythm better than most grown men and let him bang away whenever he wanted. By 5, he could mimic whole songs with nothing but kitchen tools. In 1952, his father scraped together $15 for a used drum set, and Gary played it every single day until the skins tore. Those early years gave him a hunger that never faded. In 1953, when Gary was 9, the family moved again, this time to Tulsa, Oklahoma. Tulsa was buzzing with sound: jazz, blues, country, rockabilly, swing, all of it mixed together in the night air of the city. Places like Kane's Ballroom and Barry's Stage made him feel like music was alive. He spent hours in record shops, holding vinyls, reading liner notes, and dreaming bigger dreams than Tulsa's sidewalks could hold. By 12, he was playing drums in a garage band with friends, rehearsing until their fingers hurt, and their neighbors begged them to stop. Gary said Tulsa was the place where his musical soul woke up, where he learned what performance really felt like. School was another story. At Bell Junior High, Gary struggled in class. Reading bored him, math frustrated him, and his report cards showed it. But the moment lunch break came, he lit up. He would jump onto tables and do quick skits, cracking jokes and pulling his classmates into small plays that he made up on the spot. Teachers remembered how he turned cardboard scraps into costumes and props, all for a 5-minute show in the hallway. In 1959, he joined the school's speech club, and it became clear to everyone that he had a spark that didn't fit inside a classroom. They said he was born to perform. By the time he reached Nathan Hale High School, that spark had turned into full-blown energy. Gary was unpredictable, hilarious, and impossible to forget. At the 1961 talent show, he appeared as a rock and roll star with a leather jacket, pompadour wig, and sunglasses painted onto his face. He danced through Elvis and Buddy Holly songs until the whole auditorium was laughing and cheering. His classmates loved him for it, calling him the funniest guy in school and the most unpredictable. In 1962, his senior year, they voted him most likely to succeed in entertainment. They could already see what he was becoming. Right after high school, Gary headed to Coffeyville Community College in Kansas on a partial football scholarship. At 6 feet tall and nearly 220 pounds, He looked like a solid defensive lineman. But everything changed in the fall of 1962 when he watched a campus production of Oklahoma. Something clicked inside him. He realized performing felt more natural than football ever had. He joined theater classes, auditioned for The Boyfriend, and got a role even though he had never acted. His wild style made coaches wonder whether sports had ever truly been his path. In 1963, he transferred to Pittsburgh State University in Kansas on a full football scholarship. He played 10 games and recorded 17 tackles in his first season. Then came October 19, 1963, a day that split his life in two. While tackling a running back from Missouri State, Gary tore his ACL and damaged his meniscus. His football dreams ended right there on the grass. After 2 surgeries and months of painful recovery, he turned to acting. In early 1964, he joined the drama club and took his first acting class in February. By spring, he landed a role in The Glass Menagerie, and the stage felt like home. His performance as Tom Wingfield in April 1964 shocked the campus. Professor Harold Martin said Gary's style was feral and unhinged in a way that pulled the audience into every word. The play ran for 3 nights and set a record for student ticket sales. A local paper even called it the most intense acting the campus had ever seen. For the first time, Gary felt his raw emotions had a place to go. Offers from regional theater groups followed, and his path became clear. In 1965, Gary moved to Oklahoma State University to study theater. He kept a 3.2 GPA, took improv classes, performed in plays, and worked odd jobs to survive. But in 1966, just 1 credit away from graduating, he walked away. He dropped out to chase professional gigs in Tulsa. He drummed in a band called the Choctaw Nation for $25 a night and landed small commercial jobs, like the $150 car dealership ad that became a local hit. Gary said he knew a degree would never make him happy. He wanted chaos, creativity, and freedom. College wasn't just theater and football. During those years, Gary worked night shifts at a Phillips 66 gas station. On November 3, 1963, 2 masked men stormed in with guns, demanding cash. Gary handed it over, but one robber pistol whipped him, leaving a scar above his left eyebrow. The Coffeyville Journal wrote about the robbery the next day. Gary later said that moment showed him what real fear felt like. He carried that edge into his acting, pouring survival and anger into roles like Buddy Holly and the characters he played in Point Break. That scar became part of the intensity people saw on screen. By the mid-1960s, Gary was drumming full-time. He joined a Tulsa band called the Rubber Band and performed under the name Teddy Jack Eddie. They played smoky bars filled with loud crowds, bad lighting, and enough chaos to keep Gary excited. Then came 1965, the moment he never forgot. The Rubber Band was chosen to open for the Beatles in Dallas. The pay was only a few $100s, but the energy of the crowd changed him. He said it felt like being hit by a tidal wave of sound and excitement. The band never made it big, but that Beatles show showed him how large the world of entertainment really was. In 1967, he played drums for Leon Russell, recording tracks like A Song for You. Each session paid $50, but the contacts were priceless. Russell's circle was filled with future stars, and Gary soaked up every lesson he could. Some sessions lasted 12 hours, but he stayed until the lights went off. That recording ended up being covered by icons like Ray Charles and Donny Hathaway, yet it was Gary's drumming on the original. It was the kind of hidden credit only insiders knew, but it meant everything to him. From 1969 to 1970, Gary took his Teddy Jack Eddie persona to Tulsa television. He joined the Uncanny Film Festival and Camp Meeting, a chaotic late-night show filled with comedy, horror parodies, and music. He invented strange characters, drummed through skits, and once performed an Elvis impersonation while playing drums with one hand. The show had a cult following. It taught him how to mix humor with music and how to roll with mistakes on live television. That unpredictability became part of his identity. In 1970, he toured with Chris Christopherson and Willie Nelson, playing percussion on albums like The Silver-Tongued Devil and I. They performed in packed honky-tonks and rough outdoor festivals across Texas and Oklahoma. Gary saw the beauty and the darkness of the music world. Backstage fights over royalties and song credits made him realize talent didn't always win. He loved the music, but hated the politics. Those battles pushed him to consider another path. Everything changed in 1971 during a gig in Nashville. A bar fight erupted between rival musicians, and Gary was caught in the middle. He was stabbed, rushed to the hospital, and spent weeks recovering. That moment shook him to the core. He knew he couldn't keep living that way. He packed his bags, left the drumming life behind, and moved to Los Angeles to chase acting. His music money paid for acting classes and auditions, and slowly the doors began to open. Gary Busey's early career felt like a storm that never stopped moving. It began in 1971 with Angels Hard as They Come, a rough biker film shot in the hot California desert on a tiny $15,000 budget. He played a biker named Monk, even though he had never acted before. He rode his own motorcycle, crashed it on camera, jumped over obstacles, and once tore through a narrow canyon so fast he almost hit the camera crew. Real biker gangs were on set, and he argued with them for real. The director, Joe Viola, said he had never seen anyone that fearless. People walked out of the theaters because the violence felt too real. But Busey stuck in people's minds because he acted like a man who had nothing to lose. That raw start shaped everything that came next. By 1973, he was thrown into the Magnificent Seven ride and the dusty world of Western shootouts. He played a fast outlaw with a loose tongue and showed up on set with the same wild energy he brought to the biker film. Director George McCowan liked control, but Buuzy kept messing with scenes by throwing in jokes and ad-lib lines while bullets were flying. In one take, he teased the other outlaws right when the scene was supposed to be tense. The actors froze. McCowan lost patience and yelled at him to stop fooling around. But when the cameras rolled again, the unpredictable spark stayed in his eyes, and even Lee Van Cleef noticed it. In the movie, Van Cleef's character guns down Busey's whole gang. Yet people remembered Buuzy because he did not seem like a man pretending to be an outlaw. He felt like one. Then came the shift in 1974 with the execution of Private Slovik. For the first time, Buuzy had to show fear instead of fury. He played a soldier terrified of being executed for desertion in World War II. The whole film was shot like a documentary with real military grounds and archives. His face shook in the close-up scenes, and people later said it did not look like acting. When the movie aired on NBC, the country talked about it for days. The impact was so strong that he was invited onto The Tonight Show the week after. 1 hour earlier, he had been a little-known actor. Then, suddenly, he was in living rooms across America, no longer just the wild guy from biker and Western films. He rolled straight from that into The Gumball Rally in 1976, a comedy about an illegal race across the United States. It had over 200 stunts and a $3 million budget. Busey did his own high-speed crash in a Corvette. The car smashed, the metal twisted, and he came out with a broken wrist. The crew rushed him from the set to the hospital. The shot stayed in the movie. People said he looked happiest when things were most dangerous. He joked that the film's tagline was "Drive fast, crash harder," and he had taken it personally. Everyone in Hollywood could see he was not afraid of pain or chaos. It made him exciting, and it made him risky. By 1978, he was standing in front of Dustin Hoffman in Straight Time, playing a parolee sinking back into crime. This time, the danger came from inside him. The most talked about scene was when he walked into a store with a knife during a tense robbery sequence. Hoffman's reaction was real. The crew later admitted they thought Buuzy had snapped. The stores were real stores, the extras were real convicts, and the fear on people's faces did not look staged. Even the director said watching him was like witnessing a crime that had suddenly spilled into the set. That role proved that his reckless energy was not just for stunts. He could bring that same intensity to emotional scenes too. Years later, when he transformed into Buddy Holly, he dropped 32 pounds, shaved his hairline, and lived with Buddy's parents in Lubbock. He practiced guitar in Holly's left-handed style until his fingers bled. When he put on the glasses, he would not take them off until filming finished. That dedication made his performance feel eerily real. In 1979, he became the first actor ever nominated for Best Actor for a rock biopic. He stood against Jon Voight, Warren Beatty, and Dennis Christopher, and still held his ground. He did not win, but he made history. Critics pointed to moments like his breakdown during Every Day because he sang it with real emotion, pulling from his own love for music. The National Society of Film Critics named him Best Actor in 1978. The Los Angeles Film Critics gave him their New Generation Award. He celebrated with a huge Buddy Holly reunion concert in Tulsa, where 5,000 people watched him replay Holly's moves. It was part tribute and part proof that he had crossed into both film and music history. But the deep method acting took a toll. He stayed in character off-set, ate the same food Buddy ate, and used the same accent. He refused right-handed instruments. He locked himself away to mimic Buddy's lonely moments. The exhaustion pushed him into emotional breakdowns during filming. Even the director Steve Rash said he looked drained almost every day. Yet the pain sharpened the performance, giving the film an emotional weight that other biopics could not match. After that, Broadway came calling with a musical offer about Buddy Holly. He turned it down. He wanted films. That choice sent him into a fight with Steve Rash over script changes. The argument nearly cost him future jobs. People in the industry whispered that he was too intense, too unpredictable, too unwilling to bend. But that same stubborn fire carried him forward. Then came the later shocks. In 1987, he became Mr. Joshua in Lethal Weapon. During the final fight, he headbutted Mel Gibson so hard that Gibson's nose broke. It was not in the script. The blood was real. The director kept it because it showed the true danger Buuzy brought to the screen. The movie made more than $120 million worldwide, and everyone walked out talking about the villain who felt too real. In Point Break, he played Pappas. He jumped from planes without proper training because he wanted the shots to feel real. He delivered lines so unsettling that Keanu Reeves said he felt uncomfortable during rehearsals. Director Catherine Bigelow let him improvise because it added tension to every scene. People still talk about his wildness in that movie. In Predator 2, he played Keys and insisted on doing most of his violent death scene himself. He spent hours in prosthetics and argued with the director about making the scene more dramatic. Even though the movie made $37 million, Buuzy's short but intense part became one of the moments fans remembered most. On television, he shocked people again in The Hitchhiker in 1987. He played a psychotic DJ and poured so much real radio jargon and manic energy into a monologue that a co-actor quit during filming. The scene was done in one take. He won a Cable AC award for it, and people said it was one of the most disturbing performances they had seen on TV. Then came Under Siege in 1992. He studied real bomb manuals and improvised complex explosives jargon that even the advisors could not follow. His scenes opposite Steven Seagal felt tense because he treated each moment like it was real. The film made more than $156 million worldwide, and his performance became one of the most memorable things about it. On December 4, 1988, Gary Busey rode his Honda motorcycle through Los Angeles at about 40 miles per hour after a long night of partying. He had no helmet on. One sharp moment later, the bike slipped, and he flew headfirst into a concrete curb. The hit crushed his skull in 3 places and knocked him out instantly. People on the street rushed to call for help while he lay bleeding on the pavement. At Cedars Sinai Medical Center, doctors saw his brain was swelling fast. Blood was filling the spaces where it should not be. His frontal and temporal lobes took the worst hit, and his blood pressure dropped so low that surgeons feared he might not make it through the night. They knew the next few hours would decide everything. His life hung on a thin thread, and nobody could say if he would ever open his eyes again. The surgery they had to perform was brutal, but it was the only chance he had. Doctors removed a large section of his brain to slow the swelling inside his skull. After the operation, they put him into a 3-week medically induced coma. His family sat there helpless as the doctors explained the odds. He had only a 10% chance of surviving because he had lost so much blood, and the damage was so deep. He stayed on life support while the room stayed quiet around him. When he finally woke up, he could barely speak or move. His family stared at him, shocked by how weak he looked. The surgery kept him alive, but it changed him forever. The damage left scars that shaped everything that came next. His recovery turned into a long fight that lasted months. He had facial paralysis and could not smile the way he used to. His speech came out slow and uneven. He spent 18 months in rehab learning to walk again, learning to talk again, learning to find his place in the world with a brain that no longer worked the same way. His family saw the changes forming inside him. He became impulsive. He became unpredictable. His judgment slipped. Doctors explained that the part of the brain that controls behavior and decision-making had been crushed in the crash. Friends noticed it too. The man they knew before December 4, 1988, was never fully the same again. In the middle of all this pain, he decided to sue Honda for $4.4 million. He blamed the brakes for the crash. The case went to court in 1990, but the judge ruled that the accident happened because of his own choices. Speeding, no helmet, no mechanical fault. When he lost the case, his money problems grew worse. Medical bills were already piling up. Work was hard to find. Lawyers needed to be paid. He had to go back to acting before his mind and body were ready, because he needed the income to stay afloat. The stress of all this dug into him and made his mental state even harder to control. The crash was no longer just an injury. It had started to swallow his life, his career, and his finances. The years after the accident came with pain that never fully left him. His head and neck ached almost daily, and he turned to strong medications to cope. Those pills slowly grew into addiction. The same drugs meant to help him function began to twist his behavior. He would show up on film sets and shock people with sudden outbursts. By the early 2000s, he had reached bankruptcy and owed around $450,000 in unpaid debts. His personal life fell into chaos. His professional reputation cracked. Some people whispered that the accident had taken away the man he once was. A single night in 1988 had become the root of a lifetime of consequences. On May 3, 1995, he nearly died again. That night, he overdosed on cocaine and GHB at his Malibu home. His fiancée found him unconscious and called 911. Paramedics rushed him to Santa Monica Hospital Medical Center. He stayed there for several days while prosecutors filed felony charges against him for cocaine, psilocybin, marijuana, and being under the influence. He was released on a $10,000 bail. Later, he said cocaine was the devil he danced with. He called the overdose a wake-up call that pushed him into rehab for the first time. Even then, he slipped back into drugs again and again, leaving friends frightened whenever he made strange late-night calls or acted paranoid. 3 years later, in 1998, things grew darker. He got into a heated fight with his ex-wife Judy Helson while arguing about custody of their son Jake. During the argument, he threw a telephone at her and injured her. Police booked him for spousal abuse. The case ended in a plea deal that forced him to attend anger management classes. People close to him blamed the old brain injury. Others wondered if his temper had always been there under the surface. Fans were shaken to see how far he had fallen. By 2003, he was on television again, but not in a way anyone expected. Comedy Central aired a reality series called I'm with Busey, where writer Adam de la Peña followed him around and tried to learn from him. About 1.2 million viewers tuned in to watch his wild behavior. He dropped strange lines he called Buseyisms, like fear is the dark room where the devil develops his negatives. Behind the camera, the chaos was even worse. He fought with producers. He argued with Adam. He even got into a physical altercation over the way the show was being filmed. Most scenes were improvised on the spot and led to moments where he cooked roadkill, talked to a wax figure, or forced Adam into risky stunts. The show became a cult classic, but it showed how unpredictable he had become. In 2008, he joined Celebrity Rehab with Dr. Drew. He claimed he was there as a mentor, not a patient. But everyone quickly saw he needed help. Dr. Drew explained that his brain injury had weakened the mental filters that keep impulses under control. Busey admitted he had blacked out during film shoots, including Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, because of heavy drug use. Over time, he opened up more and agreed to take valproic acid to stabilize his moods. For the first time in years, people saw a small chance for recovery. In 2010, during the filming of Piranha 3D, he kicked co-star Paul Scheer in the stomach without warning. He claimed it was method acting for the role. Crew members saw something else. They saw a man whose injuries and addictions had pushed him into a state where he sometimes lost control of himself. Paul Scheer joked about it later, but that kick showed how fragile Busey's control had become under stress. By February 6, 2012, his finances collapsed completely. He filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy in Los Angeles. Records showed he had less than $50,000 in assets and between $500,000 and $1 million in debt. The IRS said he owed around $451 to $297 in unpaid taxes from 1998 through 2009. His assets totaled only about $26 to $225 and included no real estate. Years of reckless spending and the weight of past medical costs had pulled him under. His manager called the bankruptcy a new start, but the fall from the height of his 1980s fame was hard to ignore. His medical bills alone were crushing. UCLA Medical Center billed him $100,000 for treatments tied to his 1988 brain injury. On top of that, storage companies demanded $20,000 for unpaid fees on old props from his career. VHS tapes, tambourines, tepees, all forgotten in a warehouse. These things once represented his life in Hollywood. Now they were reminders of what he had lost. He came out of bankruptcy in February 2013 with $26,000 in assets and about $57,000 in debts wiped away. But the IRS debt of over $450,000 remained. To survive, he took small acting jobs, voice acting for Grand Theft Auto, reality TV shows, low-budget movies, anything that brought in enough to get by. The stress pushed him into more relapses, and the strange behavior only grew stronger. The weight of the past stayed with him no matter how far he tried to run. His most unforgettable moment from this era came in 2012, when he danced in a courthouse parking lot while his bankruptcy case unfolded. A TMZ camera caught him joking that bankruptcy was like GM, a fresh start. His smile looked bold and loud, but later he admitted the stress was drowning him behind the scenes. That public dance and the private fear showed the split inside him. Even through all the chaos, he kept working. Between 2011 and 2013, he joined seasons 4 and 6 of Celebrity Apprentice. Twice he was fired, yet he kept showing up with energy and odd charm. He gave his prize money to charity and spoke openly about debts he had collected from failed production companies in the early 2000s. The show kept him in the public eye, but it also showed how much pressure he carried and how desperate he was to stay afloat. Then came one of the darkest storms of his late career. In August 2022, at Monster Mania Con in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, several women accused him of inappropriate touching during photo ops. Complaints came fast. Police charged him with 2 counts of 4th-degree criminal sexual contact, 1 count of attempted criminal sexual contact, and 1 count of harassment. Monster Mania expelled him from the event. In interviews, he denied the accusations and said the interaction lasted less than 10 seconds. But the media storm grew. Video of his confused answers during police questioning spread online. It became another chapter of turmoil. The case ended in August 2025 when he pleaded guilty to 1 count of 4th-degree criminal sexual contact. 3 other charges were dropped. On September 18, 2025, Judge Gwendolyn Blue sentenced him to 2 years of probation and a $500 fine. His lawyer pointed to the 1988 brain injury and early signs of dementia. The judge decided probation was necessary anyway. He appeared on Zoom, said little, and was ordered to give a DNA sample and avoid all contact with the victim. It marked the end of a long legal fight that kept him under a harsh spotlight. Between all these storms, he kept lending his voice to the Hitman video game series from 2006 to 2016. Players loved the raw gravel in his lines. That sound came straight from the damage done in 1988, leaving a permanent rasp that fit perfectly into the dark tone of the games. Producers said his spontaneous delivery made scenes feel wild and unpredictable. Fans agreed. His voice became part of the game's legacy. In October 2019, he stepped onto an off-Broadway stage at Theater at St. Clement's in New York to play God in Only Human. The show ran from October 8 to January 5, 2020. His improvised monologues surprised people. Some of the lines felt like confessions more than acting. His real-life battles, his addictions, and his search for meaning gave the character a strange kind of truth that audiences felt deeply.